What's up, y'all? It's your girl Chanel from Complex Simplicity. Happy Thursday. It's probably like almost 1 in the morning. Yes, I keep crazy hours, but I wanted to come on. I stumbled across this interesting video clip, or interesting video clips from Madame Noir. It's called Ask a Black Man. I never even knew this existed and don't even remember how I stumbled on this, but once I stumbled on it, I was like, ooh, let me take a look at this. So ultimately, it's like a round table, a bunch of guys, black men, sitting around discussing all topics that pertain to relationships, right? And so they're discussing a lot of different things. And in this clip that you'll see above this vlog, it's them discussing ultimately the dating life, right? I strongly believe men and women, we definitely think along different wavelengths, and a lot of times men don't understand women fully and women don't understand men fully. And y'all know, or those of y'all who've been rocking with me for some time now, y'all know that I am passionate about the dating world because of my single friends. I always say I have single friends who are amazing women, amazing black women, who would want nothing more than to meet who their significant other is supposed to be, who their better half is supposed to be, and they want to get married. And I find myself really wanting to be of help to my girlfriends, and some of them may get annoyed by me if I'm keeping it real sometimes, because I kind of am honest and candid with some of them with regards to different things that I see on the outside looking in. I think it's very easy for us as women, black women particularly, to feel like the pickings are slim, and there is some truth to that. We unfortunately have high prison rate numbers with black men, and there also is a growing percentage of black men who identify as gay. And so it's a smaller pool of heterosexual men for heterosexual women, right? But I also really feel like I love my friends, but I feel like some of them, or a lot of them, stand in their own way when it comes to the dating world. What I'm about to say, I don't want anyone to take offense by this. It's just my own perspective. But I really do not feel and believe that it's hard to attract a good man, that it's hard to have a relationship organically grow and happen, that it's even hard to meet who it is that God has for you. I feel like if we, as I often say, have focused on the major areas within ourselves, which really includes us appreciating, liking, and loving ourselves, that is what's going to help us to make the better choices for ourselves, which essentially will help us to attract the right person, right? It's a lot about who we attract. My girlfriends are fly, they're gorgeous, they're fine, they're beautiful, right? And so it's not the issue of them being able to attract a man or for a man to be attracted to them. It's the issue of them attracting the right man, the right men, so to speak. And I think when you start running into that, I do feel it's important for us to kind of stop and really take a pause, right? And try to figure out within ourselves, okay, what are the types of men that I am attracting? Why am I attracting these kinds of men? Why is it that I'm constantly attracting men who are A, emotionally available, or men who are B, afraid of commitment? They're like, they have a phobia against commitment, or men who really are just about sex. Or why am I attracting men who they may not have certain qualities that I know that I need and want? Like, why is it that I'm attracting these type of people? A lot of times we attract a certain type of person, different people, but they may have those certain traits and qualities, and so yes, I believe the pickings are slim, but as I often say, I also believe we can stand in our own way. And the reason why I feel like it's not that hard is because I'm no better than any of my friends or any women out there. And so if love was able to find me and I find love and I be with someone who I'm compatible with, and it wasn't like rocket science per se, then I feel like it's not that hard. And if you're finding that it is really difficult and hard, it could potentially be that there's still some things within yourself that needs to be worked out. And like I said, I'm firm, and I probably sound like a broken record by now, but I am oh so firm on women having a certain level of independence before you link up with a man and shack up and live or get married. I think it's important to be able to learn how to take care of yourself and live life on your own terms before you are now joined in a coupling or in a union with someone else. And I also feel like it's important to, aside from just being able to pay the rent and keep the lights on and keep some measure of food in your fridge, just knowing what you're made of. When I lived on my own, I would say about 7 years before I was married and living with my husband. And so in that time, I learned not only the logistics of how to survive and how to keep a roof over my head and things of that nature, I learned what I was made of. I was able to then see, Chanel, you don't make the best financial choices and decisions, which turns into this rippling effect that could be very crippling and detrimental and create more problems for you. So I learned about a weakness that I needed to get better at, which I'm still a work in progress in. I also learned that I am strong. I learned that even when the going got tough, or I was like, ooh, how am I gonna pay this bill? How am I gonna do this? I didn't go calling and running to mommy and daddy to ask for a bailout or to ask for a loan. I didn't go run to my then boyfriend, who's now my husband, asking for a bailout or asking for a loan. I didn't call my best friends like, hey, can you spare me? I just dealt with it and figured it out. I learned that I have a pretty damn good ability to figure things out. Figure shit out. Now I'm not saying asking for help is a problem. I'm probably the extreme of rarely ever asking for help, and then things could kind of get worse and blow up in my face. But I learned that let me try first. Let me try again a second time. Let me try again a third time before I start asking for help. It reminds me of the old school show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And they would get hit with one of those questions, the contestants, right? And they knew that they had an option. They had like a lifeline where they can call someone who can kind of help them to get through that question so that they can get closer to winning that $1 million, right? But if you find yourself going over a hurdle or a struggle and your first instinct is to call that lifeline, then what happens when you really find yourself in a situation that you can't get out of, right? So for me, I wanted to save my lifelines, which were my parents, my boyfriend, closest friends. I wanted to save those lifelines for when I really needed it. You know what I'm saying? And not just constantly, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Life is getting a little hard for me. Let me get help. No, I would figure it out. Even if that meant that your girl had to eat seasoned noodles. I remember there was a time when I was living on my own that I didn't have it. Couldn't even rub 2 coins together to go down to the store and buy a bag of chips sometimes. I'm keeping it 100% real with you. But guess what? My mama taught me, if you always have grits in your house, you always have pasta in your house, you always have rice in your house, you will never go hungry. And let me tell you, she ain't never lie. And I listen, I'm that compliant type of personality. And so I would always keep noodles, rice. Sometimes I would have grits, but I always kept some kind of starch. This way, when I was hungry and my stomach was kissing my back, so to speak, that hungry, I would be able to make me boil some noodles, and I would doctor that joint up. I'll never forget I had made it for my husband when he was my boyfriend back in the day, and he was like, yo, this is actually good. You wouldn't have even missed that there was no meat and cheese in it, because the way I flavored that bad boy, seasoned it well, had hot sauce, making a little spicy, a little butter in there, it was good. And guess what? I would be able to go to sleep with a satisfied stomach, right? And so I say all this to say, I wasn't the type to just, anytime I ran into a situation, to try to run and get a bailout or get help. And so this is where I was able to learn how strong I was and that I have the ability to figure it out, right? Like, and of course, there were times where I did need to ask for help, very few times, I can honestly say, because I was able to figure it out. And that level of living on my own and independency has helped me to be the woman that I am today. And I think that I know that it was so important for me to have those 7 years. The first 2 years I lived with a close girlfriend at the time, and we did it together. And then the next 5 years I strictly did it on my own. And it was important for me to understand what it was like to make a house a home, what it was like to be able to maintain. I lived in a basement apartment, like I told y'all before. I lived in a 1 bedroom. For me to be able to turn that into a home, for me to be able to maintain it and keep it clean, for me to be able to learn certain things I think a woman needs to learn. And so that's why going out on your own and gaining independency is so important, I feel, and why I always encourage my girlfriends to do so, because a lot of them, unfortunately, are not quite yet in a position to really be able to live on their own. And like I said, my friends and I were all in our 30s, damn near mid 30s. I'm already in my mid 30s. Most of them are in their mid to latter 30s, and there's one approaching her mid 30s. And so, we're no longer in our 20s anymore. So this is the phase of life where shit gets real, and where when we're talking marriage, there's certain things that we need to be able to bring to the table as well. And independency is very important. Learning how to keep a home is very important. Learning how to cook is very important. I'm upset at myself because I'll be honest with you, when I lived on my own, I did minimal cooking and more so did a lot of eating out, which was a very, very, very not good decision to do or thing to do, right? To me, it was like a careless thing to do, a foolish thing to do in some ways, because I was wasting a lot of money that I already really didn't have, right? The amount of money I could have saved from buying all them pizzas, slices of pizza, and buying all the Chinese food and buying the West Indian food. And if I would have really have cooked and started from the time I was on my own consistently cooking, I would have banked a lot of money, one, or been able to pay all of my bills in totality the way that I needed to. And I would have been able to be more acclimated. Thankfully, I think I really started taking cooking a lot more seriously when I was around the time that I've gotten engaged. And because of course, my husband is a foodie, he's a Haitian man, and cuisine and home cooked food is a big part of his culture. And I didn't want to be that wife that necessarily didn't cook, and so I've gotten a lot better. You know what? If I'm being 100% real, I think my cooking is pretty good. My food is very tasty. My husband is always satisfied. Now that I'm in between jobs, I do have more time to cook more. But definitely, it's something that I wish I would have cultivated and nurtured from my early days of living on my own, and not waiting until I'm like about to get married to now want to acclimate myself in the kitchen. So I encourage you single people out there, while you're single, whether you're living at home with family, parents, or you're on your own, start cooking. Start cooking regularly, just to kind of get your way around the kitchen, know what your style is, and to save money. Okay, it's more healthy to cook your own food anyway. At least you know what you're putting into it, so to speak. So, all of those things, that's something that I do regret. But thankfully, I know my way around the kitchen pretty good. I have my specialty dishes that I make, and I know how to zhuzh up pretty much anything and make it taste great. And, I'm cool, And so, yes, these are things that are important for people who want to eventually get married. I love that towards the end of this clip, one of the men said, in essence, women, the very things that you're wanting and demanding from them, please make sure that you also have those same things to bring to the table. And I love my girlfriends, and please, girls, don't get mad at me. I say this out of love. But, quite a few of my girlfriends I find in different isolated conversations or collective conversations that I have with them, it's a lot of what they want from their potential significant other. And then I think one time I asked the question, well, are you bringing these things to the table? You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we as women want them to have their own place. You want them to have their own car. You want them to have their own income, steady income. You want them to have certain things. I get it, are you bringing those things to the table? Are you working towards bringing these things to the table? If who you're meant to be with were to meet you tomorrow, and you're not quite in a state of full independence as a woman of her 30s and above, would you want that man to kind of be patient with you? Would you want that man to not just write you off because you don't have your own place, or because you don't have certain things aligned already that he would want in a woman? If you really were into this guy and you thought that you guys could potentially have something, wouldn't you want this guy in some ways to see the efforts you're making to set yourself up to be able to be fully independent? And so I only just put that out there because it's very easy for us as women to be like, nope, you got to have this, and this to be with me. And I get it. I'm never saying lower your standards. I don't want anyone to get this misconstrued. It's important for us to have certain expectations and standards. Like I said, for me, that's respect, loyalty, commitment, like those kinds of things were non-negotiable qualities and standards that I had, right? When I met my now husband, he was still figuring out his whole career move. Lord knows I still am. He was living at home. He wasn't on his own. I was still living at home, but then months later ended up having my own apartment, or sharing an apartment with a good friend of mine. But so if I would have had I wrote him off, and my husband clearly is a great man, which is why I'm married, then I could have potentially missed out on something amazing, someone who was for me, so to speak. And so I try to kind of help my girlfriends understand that perspective, because it's so easy for us, and maybe it's because we're in our 30s now. When I was dating my husband, when he was my boyfriend, I was in my early 20s, approaching mid 20s. And so I get it, but at the same time, I think the principle still remains that had I been like, nope, he's a great guy, but no, you still live at home, no, I probably would still be single right now. Keeping it real. I do not feel like I settled at all. I feel like I married the right person. I know that I married the right person. And I try to help my girlfriends understand this because potentially you can be crossing off a guy that could be the very thing that you need. A lot of times we may not meet them when they have it all together. For me, it has to be the non-negotiables that are quality driven. Like I said, respect. I need to know you're going to respect me. You're going to be loyal to me. I need to know you're going to be committed. I need to know that you do have a certain level of communication skills. Like those kinds of things for me are non-negotiable. I can deal with the fact that maybe you didn't figure your career out fully. I can deal with the fact of, like when I was dating my husband, listen, I get it, you still live at home now, and I remember telling him this, but if we were to ever get married, before we get married, I need for you to be able to experience living on your own. And at first he used to kind of argue me down, and he probably didn't understand my perspective, but I said, listen, if we're gonna do life together, I'm on my own right now. I'm getting a taste of it. I'm having to help pay to support myself. I was sharing an apartment with one of my good girlfriends. And I said, but I need you. I don't want you to just get married and move straight from your parents' house to where we're going to be living. I want it to be where you have experienced living on your own and what comes with that. I said, because you need that for yourself. And that's only going to make you a better counterpart for me. And to be honest, I must have planted some kind of seeds, because at some point, maybe 2 years later, he had the opportunity to get out on his own, and he was able to have a full year of living on his own and paying rent and understanding what it is to be independent in his own space. Of course, I would visit, stay over and all that good jazz, but he had his own apartment. He would have his own downtime to just be in his own apartment by himself, or have his friends over, or do certain things. Have that moment, because when we get married, I don't need it to be where now, because you never had that thing to live on your own, that experience, now you want your friends over here every weekend, or now you want to do these. Have that moment as as a man who's technically single, meaning you're not married, but you do have a girlfriend, have that moment to be able to live your life on your own terms, in your own house, apartment, whatever. And I'm glad that my husband was able to have that moment before we got married. So it's very, very, very important. I'm glad that I had that moment where I was able to have my own space, where I was able to do whatever the hell I wanted to do. I worked a very stressful job. I was able to go home and just chill. The days that my husband, who was my boyfriend then, the days that he wasn't over my house, I was cool. I was able to just chill, watch whatever I wanted to watch on TV, cook or not cook. I wasn't cooking back then, but I just had the time to do my own thing. And I'm glad that I had several years, 7 years, 2 years with a friend living together, and 5 years me for dolo doing it by myself. And I'm glad that I had that moment. I'm glad I had the moments of being behind in rent and, oh my goodness, how am I going to make ends meet? And I'm rubbing these two coins together. Like, that forced me to get better with my money. I'm still a work in progress, but I have made improvements from then, making better decisions with my money. Not letting my impulses of wanting to shop all the time take over. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's very, very, very important. So women, please, whatever you're wanting and expecting for that man to come with, bring to the table, please make sure that you have those things you're bringing to the table. Don't expect for him to have his own place if you ain't got your own place. Please don't expect for him to be making all this money if you ain't making all that money. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not expect what we can't even bring. I think that was a great point that homie made. I like watching conversations with men, a bunch of men around one another, even when my husband's friends come over or we're all out at an event or something. I love hearing the way men think and just watching how their interactions with one another are. And so likewise in this video clip, it was cool to kind of see how they think. We have a young man here who's been married for 9 years. He's all for it. You know what I'm saying? We have other single men who seem like they're like, oh, marriage is like a distant thing. But I believe one of the questions asked, was, do you feel like everything changes once you get married? And it's interesting to see. I kind of already figured this, but it's interesting to really be able to see that that's a huge fear of men. I think that for them, marriage is just this fearful thing. It's like, is everything going to change? For those who are already having sex within their relationship, is the sex going to get whack? Is she just going to let all her hair down and not keep herself up? Can I really do this? One thing my husband told me was, because we dated for a very long time before we got married, about 7 years before we got married, my husband was like, I had to make sure that I was putting myself in a position to be able to take care of us, right? And so, as I often say, or might have said before, I never knew, would have never called, would have never thought that my husband's career would have changed to where he became a fireman. Now, firemen make pretty good money, right? And so he was in a social work world like I was, not making much money at all. So you couldn't tell me when we were dating several years ago, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9 years ago, that this was going to be his career change and path. His career has afforded us to be able to progress in a major way, which I'm so thankful for, to God. And of course to my husband, who works very hard. You know what I'm saying? But I would have never called that back in the day. I loved him. He was working a job that I was working, making around the same amount of money I was, maybe a little bit more than I still wanted to marry him. 5 years into the relationship, 4 years into the relationship, I kind of was like, I know this is who I need to be with, who I'm supposed to be with. This is the one. And I was cool. My thing is, listen, we'll rub. I already know what it's like to struggle, to have to take care of myself. So we gonna rub two quarters together and make it work. We'll be happy and in love, broke as hell, but we'll be in love, right? We'll be happy, And so for me, I never really had that, he has to make this amount of money. My thing is, you have to have income. I need you to have steady income, at least. You know what I'm saying? And so I know these days, a lot of women, they want already for the man to have a certain type of income, be in a certain bracket when it comes to their salaries, and maybe it's because they want a certain way of life. I hear you, but for me, if it's where he's not making that much more money than I am, it is what it is. We'll figure something out along the way and we'll try to progress together, right? To me, that's a big part of what marriage is about, working together towards common goals. And so, for men, they feel like, everything is going to change. And that's something that for some of them really stops them from even wanting to go down the path of marriage if they're dating someone, even if they feel like she's the one. Sometimes, like my husband was saying, if I'm not in a position where I know I can take care of my family, I could take care of you, then it just ain't time. You know what I'm saying? I didn't understand it then. I probably used to nag him a little bit about it every so often, but or towards the end a lot. But for me, it was just more so I've never been the one to sign up to be the 10-year girlfriend or the forever girlfriend. Like, no, marriage was definitely something that I knew that I wanted. And, but like I said, our story is different. Everybody's story is different when it comes to when it's time for them to get married and like their overall love story, but for whatever reasons, it was in the cards for us to have to date for a while. But what I will say is once we did get married, things started happening fast for us, so we made up for a lot of that time. And when I speak with other married women that I know, I think because my husband and I dated for so long, we had a good grasp on who one another is. Of course, you still learn things about your spouse every day. We're forever growing and evolving, or at least we should be. And so you will always have to kind of try to relearn who you're with when it comes to certain things. But for the most part, we have a good handle on who each other is, so to speak. And I know that has helped us tremendously. Not that we don't go through things, because we do, like everybody, but I believe that when it comes to like our communication and when it comes to just how we handle certain things, because we have had a foundation laid for 7 years, I do strongly believe that is helpful. Not saying y'all need to be with somebody forever and a day before you get married, not at all. This is just for whatever reasons how our love story had to be written. And so even I think they asked a question about, how do you know when a man is interested in you? It's funny, my husband, when he was just my coworker, he used to always say this to all of us ladies in the office. You'll know when a man is really, really feeling you. Why? Because he is going to be consistent, persistent, and he's never going to let time go by where you're like, how come he didn't call? How come he didn't text me? Does he like me? Does he not like me? Like, when a man is really into you, he's going to do everything in his power to hunt you, to get you, right? To be with you. And that always stuck with me, because, I used to have my drama with other guys that I was kind of just fooling around with or dealing with. And, my husband would be like, nah, he ain't into you like that. And I'm like, what you mean? I know him. We knew each other for years. Because I was always the girl that, for the most part, would mess around or date people that I was friends with or knew for years. And he was like, nah, because if he was really into you, it wouldn't be where other chicks are calling your phone. It wouldn't be where, you're having all these questions of why he's not taking you out on official dates or why certain things aren't happening. Like, he's not that into you, And so I think us as women, for whatever reasons, we like to overly analyze things. And, even when the writing's on the wall, we're still like, no, he's just playing hard to get. And then us as friends be like, yeah, girl, he's just playing hard to get. Don't worry about it. He's into you. He wants you. No, that man don't want you. Because if he wanted you, he'd make it very clear, So that always stuck with me. And so just even hearing these guys, I watched several clips, so if I'm adding points that have nothing to do with this clip, forgive me. But Madame Noir has like these round tables with different groups of guys. But I know they were, one of the discussions on one of the clips that I was watching, the guys were like, nah, when a man's really into you, you're gonna know. If he's ducking and like dodging you, it's because he's really not that into you, or because he saw something about you that he doesn't like, or maybe you're annoying to him, or maybe he's no longer attracted to you, or maybe he got back with his ex, or maybe there's someone else that he's more into, So yes, you know what I'm saying? I think watching these kinds of forums are great, especially for single women. Even me as a married woman, I watch it because I'm just even curious. Certain of these things can maybe help me understand just how men think in general, how most men think overall, to help me understand my husband more when it comes to certain things. Like, I think it's helpful to really be able to see how men really talk with one another and how they think. Women, let's not assume, remember, we come from totally different viewpoints than men do. Men are very logical. Women are very emotional. We're pulling from different places. So there's certain things we may never understand about men and vice versa, you know? But yes, I think the dating game, I know it has its different intricacies because you have like the whole internet online dating aspect, but I still will go to my grave saying, when something happens organically, it just is what it is. It's really not chemistry. It's not physics. It's not that hard. Like, it happens. But I feel like when that's able to happen and we're able to allow that process to happen is when we have really gotten ourselves to a place where we're really ready. A lot of times we think we're ready and we're not. We're not. And so that's why I'm always like, yo, if you know that the bare minimal logistics aren't done yet, like you don't have your own place or steady income, or you're still struggling with certain insecurities, like deep insecurities, you really don't love yourself, like those kinds of things, or maybe you have an anger issue or issues with frustration tolerance, issues with regulating your emotions, or issues with self-awareness. And I always talk about self-awareness, y'all. Self-awareness is so important. If you can't recognize the areas and things about you that you need to fix, you're gonna have a hard time in any relationship. If anything, you may end up deterring men. These days, and I even find this with some of my husband's friends and just having conversations with some of them, like, we as women don't give a lot of men credit. A lot of men can see the forest from the trees, and they can tell when there's certain things we as women are lacking, certain immaturities we have, a lack of self-awareness that we have. They can tell when we're acting like we're know-it-alls and we don't know a goddamn thing. Like, they can tell, you know? So we need to start giving men more credit and being aware that they are just as critical and have certain expectations just as much as us women do. Please know that. And even when you get married, they're still gonna have their own expectations and critiques. So it's not just about, as I always say, what we want as women and what we need. They have their lists of what they want. They want women who are successful. They want women who have great careers. They want women who have steady incomes. They want women who have their own place to live. They want women who know how to keep themselves up. They want women who actually are disciplined and work out, stay on top of their bodies and their health. They want women who are respectful, women who know how to communicate effectively. They want women who they can bring out around their family, around their boys, and not be embarrassed or feel like, is she flirting with my boy? They want women who can admit when they're wrong and when they've played themselves. Like, they want a lot of the same things that we want. And so it can't just be where we're the ones with the harsh, nope, you don't check this box, nope, 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 when we wouldn't even check them same boxes for them. Like, it's that real. It's that real, y'all. And so, and I get it. I feel like men they should have their expectations and their standards too. They're non-negotiables just as much. So if you find like, damn, I'm like 35, or I'm 38, I'm 34, I'm 33, I'm whatever, I'm 41, like 45, why have I not met who I'm supposed to meet? Like, what is good? What's really going on? As I always say, maybe it's time to take a look inside and say, hey, am I standing in the way of my own blessings? Am I blocking my own blessings? What am I giving off when I'm in the company of men? What is it about me that's deterring them? Are they deterred? Is there something I'm doing that's putting them off? You know, or why are they constantly friend zoning me? Like, what's going on? Or why am I only attracting dudes that just want to hit and quit? Why am I only attracting dudes who want to be taken care of and nurtured? Why am I only attracting men who have wandering eyes and don't know how to keep their hands and other things to themselves? Like, you gotta ask yourself these questions, y'all. Because like I said, I still don't feel like it's rocket science, you know? And some may say, yeah, because you're married, so, but no, I'm no better than anybody else. So if I was able to attract a good man, enough for him to want to officially wife me, then you can too. And like I say, and like my visual book that hopefully will be out soon, will also say when I share some of my stories, is the fact that yes, my childhood played a huge part of it. I came from a very balanced and healthy childhood. Two parents who were still married and love each other, right? And so that helped me to develop my sense of self, my self-esteem, my self-worth. And it helped me to see what marriage looks like, a realistic picture of it, what a healthy marriage is. And those are the qualities and things that have helped me. One of the first things my husband said was, you know, I love the fact I was attracted to you for many reasons, a myriad of things, but I really love the fact that you came from a balanced two-parent household. I can tell that you had a good childhood. That makes the difference. No hope lost for those who might have had shitty childhoods. But what I will say is then that means that you got to put in that work to make sure you become an emotionally balanced person. Very, very important. And so that's why I think maybe compared to a lot of women within my age group and my demographic and my ethnicity, whatever, why I was successful in getting married, right? Being able to sustain a long-term relationship that led to marriage. So it is a lot of having to know who you are, being confident in who you are, loving who you are, knowing your flaws, knowing your strengths. All the things I always talk about, those things are very important. Ultimately, being emotionally balanced is very important. My husband is also pretty emotionally balanced. My husband also came from a two-parent household with parents who were married, parents who loved each other, you know, and so those things help. If you weren't blessed to be in a situation where your parents were married, your parents lived together, they raised you together collectively as a unit, as a team, you didn't have that depiction of what a healthy marriage looks like, that can make it harder. I'm gonna be completely real with you, but it doesn't mean that the hope is lost. It just means you're gonna have to make sure that you have go-to examples of people in your life who do have healthy marriages. You're gonna have to make it a point to understand and work through whatever your parents might have taught you through their own behavior, through their own teaching, so to speak, about men, about women, about marriage, all of that. Depending on what message was sent to you, you may have to unlearn certain things. I have girlfriends who some parents might not have always had the best of things to say about a man, right? Or they might have seen their mom not being treated so well or their dad not being treated so well. And so certain things you will have to unlearn, but you too can end up finding yourself in a successful marriage. My mom had a horrible childhood, crazy childhood, right? But she did have a few examples. I believe God will always have certain people in your life He will strategically put there to help you along your way. My mom had her maternal grandparents. They were Christians, they were married, they were happily married. So that was the first example that she saw. You know, there were other women God placed in her life to teach her certain things she would need to know about how to be a healthy woman. My mom did have to go to therapy because she did undergo unfortunately some abuse in her life, and so she was able to work certain things out when she was young. And so there are things that you may have to do to get yourself to a place of being emotionally balanced so that you can be in a healthy relationship and not add toxicity to it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I always say this. I don't know if it goes over a lot of people's heads or if they're like, yeah, she's talking that talk. But it's so important for me. Being emotionally balanced and emotionally healthy is important for every aspect of our life. And in relationships and marriages, it's very important if you want to have a successful marriage, right? Successful relationship. So, you know, if you're finding like, why ain't meet him yet? What's going on? I don't get it. Yes, the pickings are slim. I'll give you that. But another big part of it is you got to figure out what's going on in here. In here, figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And get right. Work on what you need to work on. You know, progress to where you need to progress to individually. Don't wait, ladies, for a man. If you don't have to, don't wait to then live on your own. Like, please start experiencing these things from when you're single. Don't wait to be with someone to start living life. Live your life. Go after your dreams. Check off the goals that you have for yourself, personal goals, professional goals, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Don't wait. Life keeps moving. Time keeps ticking. So, and time waits for no man, right? No woman. So as I always say, while you're waiting, live your life. And make sure that you're striving and taking the steps towards whatever it is that you need to, the things you need to work on and the things you want to work on. This way, when you do meet who you're supposed to be with, it'll make for a healthier and richer connection and bond and relationship that could lead to marriage. Very, 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 very important just to keep in mind. And so I love when they're a group of men talking that talk and helping us women to kind of understand how they think. I don't know that a lot of us really understand how men think, and we can't assume. So when you hear it from a man himself, various perspectives from men on topics of love, dating, marriage, like it's important to kind of see or try to see where they're coming from, and to know what their concerns are, the things that hold Black men back from wanting to get married, right? I was watching another clip where they were saying they feel like the Black woman is the most rigid woman, whether it's sexually, the most rigid woman just in general, the woman that has all of these rules and like, no, don't do that, no, don't do this. And they're like, listen, we're married, we're making love. Like, why is it all these restrictions? And I had to sit back and be like, they're right. You know, us Black women, is something, we're bred this way. It's something there where we have all these rules and restrictions and don't do this and no, and da. You know, whereas women of other cultures are more free. They're more of the caterers to their man. They're more, you know, free sexually in the bedroom, perhaps. I'm not saying all Black women are like not free sexually or all Black women are this way, but if you kind of get my drift. And so I had to sit back and listen to them and say, you know what? I definitely can see where I even fall into that category. You know what I'm saying? Chanel, be more free, like be more carefree with certain things. You know, so yeah, I love that us as Black women, we're like groomed to be strong, which is necessary, and just women in general, we're groomed to be strong beings. But there is something to be said about catering to your man. That is an important thing. You know, even I was reminded recently that you gotta cater to your man. It can't just be where they cater to you, cater to us. Like the things that we're asking for, we gotta be willing to do as well. The expectations that we have to understand that they have expectations of us too. Like, it's real. You know, so hopefully this was helpful. Go to Madame Noir, go to YouTube, type in Madame Noir, Ask a Black Man, and there are tons of video clips that will come up. You know, they even have some clips of Black women clapping back, so to speak, at some of the things the men were expressing. But, you know, hopefully this helps you, especially you single women out there, kind of opening your eyes a little bit to how a Black man thinks when it comes to love, relationships, dating, sex, things of that nature. I just like for my girls to be well informed. I always say that. I like for people to be well informed. Don't live life out here blindly, y'all. But anyway, it's been about 43 minutes. I'm going to get out your way. Have a great week and continue to rock out with your girl by going to complexsimplicity.com. And until next time.